All right, you ready? You guys ready?
Ready.
All right, we'll go ahead and start. So before we get started, I was thinking about how I went over all the other podcasts, and our podcasts are pretty jovial. Like, it's fun, and we talk mad shit and stuff. But in the last couple of weeks, we had some fucked up situations that happened. We had the Flagstaff officer that took his life. And then last week, we had Officer Paul Rutherford, who was killed while responding to just a regular accident. There was no injuries, no nothing. So Veronica, if you look, Veronica to my left and Mark's here. Veronica had an idea that we talk about just everyday living of PTSD, and I'm 7 years out of my incident. Veronica's
3.5.
Mark
14.5.
And also in the peanut galleries, everybody that's been a part of a podcast so far is here. We got a microphone, so you'll probably hear more than just the regular T's here, but they'll be chiming in as we go along. But one of the things that what I wanted to start off with, what did I T?
Are we recording?
Yes, we are. That's when I said we're recording.
Here we are.
Yeah, before we get started with it. So, anyways, back to what I was saying.
It's recorded before a live studio audience.
This is why it's live.
Everyone in the audience is crazy.
So with us today in the peanut gallery, who's going to be heckling us all day, is T, who's normally part of it. Brian Romney, you guys heard his story as part of Veronica's critical incident. April Wallace, who just put her podcast up. And we had a special guest show up out of nowhere. One of the best guys in the world. Well, he's a lovable, huggable kind of guy. Big. Dave Bagayo. So we're glad you're here, brother. And so what I was saying was, I was thinking about Officer Rutherford, and I was watching a baseball player. I think it was Mike Trout, just signed like a fucking $400 million contract, and everybody's thinking about how great he is and what he does, and they ask for his autographs. And Officer Rutherford was just doing his job, and as a police officer, we don't ask for autographs because our autographs usually give people fines or put them in jail or prison. So we're not seen that same way. But Officer Rutherford went out there and just basically was doing his job, and he was helping people, and nobody would have been none the wiser at all. Nobody would have been none the wiser if that wouldn't have turned into a fatal. And he would have just been another officer that helped people that unfortunately lost his life. So every day we go out there and we deal with that nonsense. And that's kind of what I wanted to start the podcast off with. So with that being said, Veronica,
Yes.
this was your idea. So how do you
It was collaborative.
how do you want to start it with regards to like every day? You're in a different situation because you're mom.
Right.
And that makes it like 1,000 times worse.
I agree. Yeah, so I just wanted to do this because I think a lot of times we talk about our story, and it's usually our incident. It's always like what we went through, what happened to get us where we are. Not normally, I don't hear a whole lot of talk about like once we start feeling better or the steps, years down the road that we take to continue our wellness and stuff. I just feel like we're always talking about our story. And I know I've shared it a few times, so I feel like that's all we really do a lot of times. And I think if we can tell people like, hey, share that it's a really fucked up situation for a long time, but it does get better. There is, hope, I guess, at the end of the day. It's not, doesn't have to get to the point where people are taking their own lives and stuff.
Right. And because it's not a physical injury, like some of the guys along the way have had physical injuries, being shot.
Right.
And they can see it, and I think people relate to that better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody wants to be fucking shot. Everybody says, nope, that hurts, and they give you that pass. But for us, the non-physical wounds are what people are focused in on. Like, well, Mark, you look fine, right?
I've been working out.
You're a
so
handsome
thank
guy.
You.
Why are you retired? They don't understand that there's an internal. He does look
Is
old,
it
but
gray
that's
hair?
because he
yeah,
is
I'm
old.
only 28. So
That was what happened with
that's
the
some stress
headshot.
factor right there.
So I think when people see that, like, they just think, oh, yeah, everything's fine, right?
Right.
And they don't understand what it's like every day, like every day. So, Mark, I'll let you start. Like, what is your day like? Because we have good days. Just because we're not, we're not always sad. We're not always sad. We're not always angry. We still laugh. For a long time, we don't. But I think over time, with treatment and then with pistol and stuff, we learn how to get that back. So what's your day like now, 14 years later?
It's good you said that, we laugh and we have good days and stuff like that. I was like always a joker by nature, and everyone that ever worked with me will attest to that. And so humor and laughing and fun and having a good time was like paramount in my day. Every day, that's what I strive to do. And a lot of times, so if you're watching this podcast, you probably have PTSD or you know somebody. And you're in, whatever phase you're in of it. My shooting was over 14 and a half years ago. And I kind of fell off the cliff 6 months after that. And those early times, it was horrendous. I mean, suicide was like an hour by hour struggle for me. And 14 years later, with years of therapy, tons of hard work, a failed marriage behind me, and just all of the tragedy that comes with it that you hear about. So here I am today, and I've taken a lot of steps. I've run through a lot of checklists to make myself normal, and if you can follow those, you'll start your day off like I started my off today, like I normally start off almost every day, and that is I start off with a motivational thing from either some some preachers that I follow online, or I subscribe to another podcast called Order of Man, and they talk about positive things to influence your life and stuff like that. Any ounce that I can bring into my day before I get out from under those covers, basically, that's how I try to start my day off. And I do that even before I bring in my chemicals. I don't take medications. I despise this stuff. And it ran me through some serious hardcore ringers. And I'm not advising you to get off medication, because at times I needed that. Mm-hmm. I'd be a dead man without them. So don't go jumping off your meds. But I've got enough things in place right now to where the chemicals I take now are simple stuff like caffeine. I take like a stack of vitamins this high, natural supplements and anything like that I can, because I know that PTSD, first and foremost in my battle, it's a chemical problem. And so before I even get out of bed, I'm working up and I'm amping up the positive feedback through a podcast or through the Bible if you have a faith. I have a faith, and I believe in that, and I start my day off with that, and then I'll jump out and I'll start bringing on my vitamins, stuff like that, and then caffeine, because caffeine can take you one way or the other. It can make you extremely angry, or it can make you, it can motivate you and bring you up.
Caffeine like coffee?
Yeah.
Did you start a day with like a cup of coffee?
Yeah, just that simple.
And on average, would you say you wake up triggered? Do you wake up?
4 to 5 days out of 7. You know what I'm gonna say, man? Bam! I wake up with that gun blowing up in my face.
We can't do the podcast without that going on.
I'm sorry, man.
Everyone
I'm
in the
here.
peanut
I'm
gallery
sorry.
is jumping back. You're like, oh,
but
just fuck
yeah, I
everybody's
mean,
day
that's
up.
the guy. We were in a point blank shootout nearly, and he shot, and that wakes me up every morning, and that's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours in.
And I think that's what
So sometimes I go into my day and I've only got 2 or 3 hours of sleep under my belt, and I'm like, I wake up and I'm drenched in sweat, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not gonna fight myself back into sleep. So I'll immediately go into, some sort of social media or something like that that'll bring me out of it. and I have to deliberately pick something positive.
But and that's what I guess my question is, like, your everyday people don't see that. Like, so the rest of your day, if you're shopping or you're running errands, they don't know that's how you woke up.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Right.
They have no idea how you start your day, and that's the ultimate battle with this stuff, because nobody knows. Oh, look at her, look at him. He's normal, man. He's out walking around,
Laughing,
joking.
shooting the
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, and that's just your personality. You're going to be a master. You're going to become a master at disguising and muting and putting all those symptoms under the blanket, man. You don't want people to know about it.
What about you, Veronica? Is that a lot? Is that, I see you shaking your head. Is that
As
like
far
an
as
everyday?
So I don't think, maybe because I'm a mom and I still got a little guy at home, my mornings, like whether I got good sleep or not, which generally I don't, because I still do the wake up at 2, 3, 5, and I still have all the shitty dreams and stuff. But I normally, like, not this past week because we were on vacation, but I have to wake up and get my kid ready for school. And we used to be really good about schedules and stuff, but like, my kid has to leave for school at like 8:10. We are out of bed at 7:45. Like, I push it as long as I can. Like, I cannot get up motivated to do what I have to do. So thank God my kid's not a big breakfast eater, and lunch is really early because we normally don't do breakfast.
He's like, here's some Lucky Charms. Put them in your mouth real quick.
Yeah, and so, so I immediately, like, when I roll out of bed, have to just start working, doing all the mom things throughout the day. And then,
but not wanting to get up is part of what you deal with on a daily basis, or does it change?
I would say 9 times out of 10, it's hard to just get out of bed. It's the motivation that I used to have is just really not. It's not there. It's not like I'm not like laying in bed like fighting anything. I just don't have that hurry up and get up that I used to have.
You just like feel exhausted?
Yeah, always tired. Yeah.
Didn't you talk about that, T? Not too long ago, you were like, I'm just tired.
I go to bed at 7, and I don't ever want to wake up because it's so, like, my alarm goes off, and I just don't want to get up. I don't want to get out of bed. It's so hard.
It is.
Yeah.
But is it okay, so I guess we can transition into that. So you not wanting to get up, both of you, because I think everybody here is going to say the same thing, but is it the critical incident that you're not wanting to face just over and over again, or are you just that exhausted? Is it the depressing part of that on your mind, that depression that they talk about?
I think it's the depression.
And I think it's a little bit of that for me, but I think sometimes I feel like the shit in my head doesn't ever turn off, that I'm so tired, like it's just constantly going and going and going, that I just feel like that just takes me to that exhaustive level where I'm just like, if I do have stuff to do all day and I'm go throughout the day, I mean, I'm like done for days after that. I need to take like a day just to veg out and let my brain,
I have a down
like,
day too.
yeah,
and
just to let it.
I was so ashamed of that. We were talking about shame a couple weeks ago, and I was ashamed to take a nap. I was married
Naps
at
are
the
nice.
time. Yeah,
They're
I
nice
know. It's like
things.
stealing time, man. That's a good burglary right there. I robbed the clock. But yeah, I was so ashamed that if my wife said, What were you doing? Did you take a nap on the couch today? No, I did not take a nap.
Right.
Jeez,
I
you
feel
got
the
a lot of
same
fucking
way.
shame.
Yeah,
Mark.
I'm telling
this
you,
guy's
man.
ashamed of everything.
I feel the same way though.
Honestly,
It's
it was embarrassing that
yeah.
I had to take that. It was embarrassing that I had to take that nap.
I feel guilty sometimes
But,
as
you know,
the
at
mom
the end of
taking
it
those
now,
naps
it's-
and taking that time.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to sit here in complete defeat. You know why? Because I'm alive. And through everything that I've had, there's just so many things that that I can put in place, and I have good days. And I'm going to tell you right now, this loop never stops rolling. So 3 years out, 14 years later, it's still rolling.
Yeah.
And there's what sickens me the most is there's things that are rolling through my head on the same frequency, urgency, and amp level that were a minor call or didn't even happen. But because my mind has turned into that loop system, I overcome it, and it's not like I'm freaking out, clearing my house like I used to with my gun, walking around, no, I know he's in here, I know he's in here. That doesn't happen anymore. So you can rationalize things away. You start to slowly, okay, I'm having this, but I can counter it with this.
Right.
I'm having this, but I can counter it with this. And at the end of a 7-day period, everybody's like, well, looks like you had a great week.
Right.
They have no idea all the
Yeah.
turmoil you
Well,
were battling
right.
on the inside.
So
But
I think, Brian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think a lot of the exhaustion comes from the mental part of it.
Right.
You know, because you guys talking about how your brain's always going, and people can't see the mental struggle that we go through. Like for me, I'm always battling the anxiety, anger, depression, and it's always a battle. You know, it's
Right.
like you could be walking in the store and something triggers you, and then you spend the next hour to 2 to 5 hours dealing with that anxiety that's happening, and people can't see that.
no.
But
And sometimes it's not even just getting triggered. It's just the action of doing it that's tiring, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
gotta, like somebody says, can you make a grocery list? You're like, fuck no, I can't. No.
Yeah,
I
and,
can't
and to
do
throw
that.
out hope though to people that are in the start of their PTSD struggle, don't throw it in thinking it's going to be so overwhelming that I'll never want to live a week like this, much less another year or 14 years like this lunatic. You learn you almost it's almost like going to the gym. It's like you get stronger every time you're doing something, and believe it or not, you get mentally conditioned. You almost like build up a callus to all of those things rolling through your head, and you're just like,
Well, Dave, I think Dave says it really. He says it a lot, and we just talked about it yesterday about hurdles, and like putting hurdles in front of us. Like, you know, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back to this. To the scene of my critical incident, or you know, I don't want to get up, or I don't want to get a job, I don't want to consider, right, Dave? We talked about, you know, the first time you try to go back to work and you're like, wasn't really ready for that. But it's those hurdles that help us get over those things. And I know I think I talked in my podcast about the first time Dave went back to work, and he's like, I'm serving a search warrant. I'm like, fuck that. Fuck, I'm done with search warrants. And then I get hired back in a non-enforcement thing, and I serve a search warrant, and first person I call is Dave and tell him, I'm serving a search warrant, just like you. It was just a hurdle that I had to get over. And so, you know, those hurdles are just, they start like, they're like 25 feet high in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And they're the simplest tasks that we have to try to achieve. You know, my doctor's like, why don't you just write down notes, like you were talking about with your book. That was a task. You're like, I don't, what do you want me to write down?
Yeah.
Why I was angry. That's going to be a book? I was angry. That, or, you know, my wife and I got in a fight over a bowl of fucking cereal. That's going to be a book. That's all that I have for you at that point. And I think, you know, and I don't know how, for me, I don't know how you do it alone when you have to get up. I don't know how you do it as a mom when you have kids. When you have to get up and force yourself to get up that way. Because a lot of times, if I was in Mark's position, I wouldn't fucking get out of bed.
It's scary sometimes, man. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, I mean, if
Like,
I got
I
out of
know,
bed,
I
it
mean,
would be to
some
piss
days
and
I
get
wake
something
up-
to drink.
I wake up, I know I'm in trouble. I was like, oh man, it's going to take everything I got. Every checklist I got to try to get me through this one. And I try to, you know, I just, initially when you're in your PTSD, it's like, you can't even think. You can't think about what's step one. I was supposed to do something. Well, blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, it's flooding. And to me, it always reminded me of like somebody taking a deck of playing cards and just like flipping them past you, and you can't even stop and recognize one card like ace, king, queen, 9, 2, 2. They're flipping by you. Your thoughts are flooding by you so fast you can't even stop them. One to say, this is what I should do.
Yeah.
I should call Manny because Manny said he's going to help me when I'm going crazy. Hey, you know what? No, my doctor said I should take another pill of this type of stuff. It's that bad initially. But I'm just telling you, hold on, and keep fighting, because slowly things are going to slow down. You'll remember this, you'll remember that, and everything's going to build, and you're going to build, and you're going to build, and you're going to build.
And then at first you're compounded with so much shit.
Yeah.
You've got fucking work comp on one
so
side.
overwhelming.
You've got your fucking department on the other side. In between
And the
there,
incident.
Yeah. Well, in there is the incident.
Yeah.
Then you've got people, when you coming back to work, man? You going to come back to work? Or if you're retired, like most of us are, everybody thinks you got all the fucking time in the world to help them move. Hey, can you help me move? What are you doing? You're not doing shit. You know, can you come fix my fucking toilet? Like shit like that.
Yeah.
You can't fucking fix that shit.
No.
And trying to get all that, down in there. So throughout your day, and this is for everyone, but throughout your day, my triggers they seem to be fewer and farther between. And we talk about the intensity, the duration, and something else because I can't remember right now. Frequency. But so just like a normal day, I mean, I'm like you guys. Like I wake up and I'm working again in a non-enforcement capacity, and I don't there's times where I'm like not getting out of bed, don't want to get out of bed. Yeah. But I get into a routine. We have coffee, and I start my day. Usually I send Brian some fucking stupid meme or something to start my day. That helps because he responds back, and then it starts my day. But trying to just the everyday things, the triggers, I think I don't know if we're better at coping with them along the way with therapy or treatment, or just because we do this,
or if we're better disguising them.
Or we could disguise them.
Sometimes it's just like I don't want anybody to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you disguise it?
And let me tell you this joke
Alcohol?
I know. Yeah, with everything you can.
Mm-hmm.
With everything. With every kind of shielding mechanism you can, whether it's, joking or whatever you're trying to do. Sometimes you can get lost in an activity. I mean, this probably goes with you. I mean, you get lost in the care of your child.
Oh, yeah.
Soccer games and shit.
And
Soccer,
you can envelop yourself in something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a double-edged sword though, because I have to go with him. I have to see people. I have to talk to people. And it's not that I don't want to socialize. It's just so much more on top of everything else that is going on.
I don't want to socialize.
That it's just like
I don't want to fucking socialize at all. I'm not gonna lie.
I used to be like, and I used to do it all the time. And I find myself like I still go to the parties and whatever the kids' parents and stuff have going on. We'll do girls' lunches and stuff. But I usually am the quiet one there. I'm usually the one that's, if everyone's standing around the kitchen table, I'm on the couch. And I don't really
isolating, huh?
Yeah, and I don't really notice it as I'm doing it. I've only picked up on it because I've had people say, "Hey, why are you over here?"
Yeah.
And I've had people do that more than once where I'm just like, "Oh, am I really just being Miss Antisocial over here? Like they're gonna know I'm not okay, And
you don't want me to tell you why I'm sitting over here because I killed you 3 times in my fucking mind when you said something stupid.
I used to do I used to be a huge concert goer, so I had a bunch of tickets on my schedule and everything, and I had finance and everything. Everything was going. I was getting Jason Aldean tickets, Garth Brooks tickets, a couple other small. I had 5 concerts I was going to this month.
Did you make them?
No.
Not a single one.
So I went to one.
Which one?
I burned these 1 tickets, but anyway, meaning giving them away.
Like you burned them.
I'm a pyromaniac. Yeah. No. So I went to this one, and it's a country concert. It was at the Van Buren, and it's an open forum. Everything's general admission, and so you're looking at this stuff, and all of a sudden, I don't know what amped me up. And
how about the fucking crowd?
Probably the crowd. Maybe the darkness. And as I'm sitting there looking at this stage and I'm watching this guy really enjoying the show or whatever, I started feeling some anxiety coming on, which was actually unusual for me. And all of a sudden, people started coming out of this darkness. And I was like,
oh, there it is.
Oh my God. I was like, I'm freaking out here. And I recognized it. And I said, I'm actually I'm getting really, really activated. Another person will come out of that darkness and right at you, and they're just filtering through the crowd, and it was tripping me out bad. And so I turned around, I got back out, I got as far away from that as I could, and got out in the general area, and that was weird. That was the first time that.
Were you by yourself there?
No, I was with a buddy of mine. Actually, the guy that was in the shooting with me.
So both of you guys are fucked up then.
Yeah.
You left him and he left you. He's like, I'm fucking out of here.
No, he was still in there. He
stayed, huh?
He was fine with it, yeah. But I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want it. I was embarrassed about it. I didn't want to screw up the day, and I was like, me and my friend were gonna go out and watch a show, and I didn't want to screw up the deal. I didn't want to screw up the evening, and I was like, you know what? just go back and like self-soothe, do whatever you can. And so I went out to the edge, and I just like turned around and I just looked out the windows out at the street. Out of Van Buren Street, and like,
is that how you feel too when you're at like soccer practice and shit and all those people are screaming and yelling and shit? Like you don't want to fuck up your son's soccer game.
Right, yeah. And I feel like after a while you become like the Debbie Downer, and I don't like to be that person, you know, like everyone, you know, or the like, oh, well, she's sick, so let's not
I hate
bother
everybody
her.
accommodating this crap.
Right, yeah.
I don't want special.
Right.
Hey,
I'm
make
not
sure you
a
don't do
victim. I
this
don't
'cause
want
she's
to be
crazy.
treated like a victim.
Yeah, I hate it.
Right.
And I hate to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we should edit this because I don't want this going out. But yeah,
It's going out.
Yeah, so it freaks you out because you're like, man, I don't want to be looked at as I don't want to be looked at as a psychopath, as a crazy person.
Well, you feel that way. I don't know if T
you do.
feels that way or if anyone else does, but you don't ever know what is going to happen when someone thinks it's a good idea to go to Disneyland, right? Like, hey, let's go to fucking Disneyland.
Yeah.
And you don't want to fuck the family vacation up,
Right.
right? And Brian's getting ready
and
to say something.
Most of the time, you can deal with it, and nobody knows any better.
Right.
I
You know,
I don't know.
and
Disneyland seems like a big stretch to try to
I
fucking
got
deal
it.
with.
I'm just saying, I've been able to go in and just like internalize it all and use everything that
but
I
that's
can.
what fucked us up in the beginning.
It is,
true.
but you know, I mean,
Well,
the rest
a
of the
lot
world
times-
keeps spinning.
A lot of times you'll have a good day, or you'll be having 2 or 3 good
Right.
days, and you have the best intentions, and you're out having a good time,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're strong enough to deal with that, and then all of a sudden it punches you in the face, and you're like, holy cow, I'm not okay,
Right.
and this is not okay, and I need to either get out of here or figure something out. And so it's not always, you're not always on guard, because you could be having a good day. Normally
Right.
we're always on guard. Because
So how
it's
good
like,
are you at disguising that when you get activated and you don't want to screw the whole, throw everything away because I'm freaking out? I mean, I'm a master at it.
I think I
It-
am.
I'm a
it's-
master at it.
we get good at it, but
Yeah.
the problem is like I like to describe my anger as like the Hulk. You've got
You're
this
not that
guy
big.
holding it in for so long, and then eventually the Hulk's going to come out. So a lot of us do that. We hold it inside, and it's like a time bomb, just ticking, 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 and then all of a sudden we can't hold it in anymore, and we blow
and
up on
probably,
our families.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Unfortunately, it probably does. When we do finally express it, it's towards someone we actually really care about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and because like you said, we get cute. You get a couple days under your belt that you're not fucked up like you were a couple days before, and your spouse says, I have a good idea. We should go to this crowded place, whatever.
Yeah.
And
fucking
you're in a
Target.
good place.
Well,
you
and
think
then
that's
you're
a good
Yeah,
idea.
you
you're
think it's a good
euphoria.
idea.
You're like, yeah, victory, man.
it.
And one more.
Yeah.
Let's pile on.
Yeah.
And you start that way.
And then you
like
come
Brian
home
said,
fucked
it's-
up, and your spouse is like, that was probably a bad idea. Somebody should have said stop.
Well,
Well-
for me, one of the things I struggle with is a lot of times I'll be having a good day, and my wife feels that, and she starts to feel normal again, and my family starts to feel normal again. And so we get into this rhythm of normal, and then I have an episode, and my wife looks at me and is like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, do you forget that I
Right.
have PTSD? I mean,
Yep.
do you not remember that? And
Yeah.
it's frustrating for me because I keep it inside and I hide it all day, and I keep my little struggles inside so that they don't have to deal with that, because I don't
Right.
want my injury to take over their lives. Because
Right.
for a long time when I was in crisis, it took over everything. It took over my
Right.
whole family.
Yes,
It
it
took,
did.
they were all on eggshells because I was a mess.
Right.
And so now that I'm a lot better than I was, I do my best to shield them from
Right.
all the crap that I deal
Same
with
thing.
inside.
But do you think it's good?
It is good for them so they can have a normal life,
Right.
and
Yeah,
it's
and I-
not.
But does it help you later by shielding them? Like,
It's a struggle because I don't want my kids to look back and say, "My dad was an asshole," or
yeah, it's too late for that.
I know
Brian.
that, but it's like trying to shove the genie back in
second
the
that
bottle.
emotion.
Yeah.
But in general, I want my kids to look back at their childhood as normal. And if they can say, yeah, my dad struggled with PTSD, and recognize that that's what it was, instead of, no, my dad was just an asshole. I don't want them to associate that with me and not have the injury part of it or my PTSD or whatever not be part of the equation. And so I do my best to shield them from my daily struggle so that it's not their daily struggle. And so it's
So how do you deal with it then? How do you cope with it? If you're shielding them, when do you address you?
well
At some point you have to address it.
I do, and I talked about that I think in another podcast, is that I have to be intentional with my actions. If I feel anxiety welling up, I go fight, I go to the gym, I go run, I do something to shed that. Because I know if I don't, it's going to spill over, and then they're going to feel the full wrath. So with this, you have to be intentional with your how you deal with it. And I think in the beginning, a lot of us aren't intentional because we don't know what that means. We're just, PTSD is happening to us.
Yeah, because you're drowning and you're just you're treading water. You're trying to fucking keep your head above
so
ground.
It's happening to us, but as we get better at coping, we recognize the triggers or the ramp up to crazy, and you have to start doing something immediately.
Yeah, because initially you can't even stop it.
And that's where
you
medication
know it's
comes
coming.
in.
You just feel like you're on a wave that you have no control over, and it's like picking you up and slamming you down on the reef, and there's no stopping it. You have no input to it. But as you go further down, and it's further and further in your rear view, it's a hard. It's you have to be active in it, in working that, because every time, like I do the simplest stupid stuff. It doesn't even sound like it would be effective, but I mean, like one of my checklist things is I chew peppermint gum, and I don't know what it is, but that peppermint oil in there, and it starts creating brain activity where my chewing mechanism and all that stuff's going on, and that peppermint oil and all that stuff, and it activates smell into another sense and stuff like that. And I found that that's helpful for me.
Yeah, those are the
smallest things, because there's not a doctor on this earth that's going to give you enough dope to get you through every single symptom, because they'll give you something and you think you just found the silver bullet to kill this werewolf. And 3 months into it, you're like, man, you know what I need? I need 2 silver bullets.
Yeah.
And then I need 6 of them.
And now I need Viagra because the shit fucking made me soft.
Whatever else.
That's what the fuck happens
and
when
then
you end up going.
Your symptoms overtake you and the side effects of those drugs. And I'm telling you, you need every single hook in this water to get you yanked out of that pond when it's too tumultuous down there.
April, did you have some?
Yeah, I was listening to Veronica, and I'm thinking the same thing because my boys play soccer. But my biggest thing is, because of what we're struggling with, I don't find it fair that my family has to sit around and wait for me to feel better.
Right.
So, excuse me. So I do a lot of, pushing myself to do what I got to do, get up, take them where they need to go. Because, I mean, like you said, Mark, our world is still going around. They're still wanting to do stuff, and Disneyland sucks for us. Movie theaters suck for us. There's lots of places that suck for us. But my kids still like movies. My kids still like to go to places.
Right. And I still get some element of joy out of it.
Yeah, I still do too, especially watching my kids. And I mean, in some movies, but I think, like, for me, I don't have a lot of outlets. Like Dave was asking, like, what do you do to when you've been bottling it up? Well, a lot of times I give myself that day to take, not to get out of bed, not to do whatever the hell I'm supposed to do. And I accept it. And then I also attend my pistol group, which we get to air everything that goes on.
That's so helpful.
That is the biggest help for me, because I'll bottle it up, and then our Tuesday group comes, and I'm like, blah, this
like
is
a
what
pressure
happened.
relief valve.
Yes, exactly.
Tuesday
so that's
group's
what
so
I
much
use.
better than Wednesday and Thursday group.
You're right.
Tuesday
group
Wait.
is great.
24th Avenue, Carefree
and the
Highway.
facilitator is
6 p.m.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's supposed to be anonymous, but never mind that.
My bad.
That's a big corner. You're never going to find us.
So when you trying to get your okay, so
You're fired, Mark.
real quick before we get into Mark's, because I know that I want to ask Mark about his dating life, because I know Tinder with PTSD is not a prerequisite. But so just like on a
Should we preface this that it might get frightening people?
Why did I
well,
agree to
I think
this?
part of the problem is like the everyday thing. Like for me, I like Brian or Mark or Veronica. You get cute, you think you're doing good, and you're gonna make it better, and you want to do things with your kids, and your kids are already not trusting of you because you let them down before, or you freaked them out before, and so last week, I like to take my goddaughter on like a date. Her mom and dad go on dates, and then she got upset because she didn't get a date, so I take her on dates. And we've been on 2, and the first one was really good, no problems. And then last week, I decide I'm going to take her. She likes calamari. So I'm going to take her calamari and get some cheesy bread from Oregano's. And let me tell you, playing I Spy from point A to point B and then from point B back to point A is not fun. But it takes your mind off shit when you've got a 6-year-old. Let's play I Spy. I spy something green, and everything around you is fucking green. It's not fun, but it helps me cope with all that stuff. So we have a grand time. She eats the most amount of bread a fucking 6-year-old could ever eat in my. I don't even know how she did it. But we're driving home, and I get her to the house. She has a genuine fear of bugs, and I'm getting her out of her booster seat, and something spooks her. I don't know what it was, but something spooked her, and she thought there was a fucking bug on her, and she fucking lost her shit. She screamed, and you guys know screams fuck me up some bad. And if I know it's coming, not so bad. If it's a dull one or I can handle it, I wasn't expecting it. I got cute, and I was confident, right? I got this. And I was reaching in to get her out of her booster seat, and she fucking let just the most it just rattled me. And so I literally didn't want to lose my shit. Like, I was at my mom's house, and I knew everybody was inside, but I didn't want people to look at me and be like, you can never take that girl out again because you're a fucking freak, right? Because that's the way that I thought. And I remember when I was at my worst, my wife would tell me, she's like, I don't even want you to go to the store. She didn't want to go to the store and leave me alone with my son. Right? And, that's a kick in the balls. Because you think, how fucked up, what did I do to them where they don't trust me? And it's getting cute. Like, you just get cute, get confident. And so I was trying to get situated, thinking to myself, am I that fucked up that I can't even fucking be responsible for a fucking 6-year-old? And so I held my ground, and my mom came out, and everybody came rushing out, and they took her away, and I just got back in the car, and then I got back to the house, and I thought I did pretty good. Did I do all right? No, I didn't do okay, I guess. No, but I mean, when I got back to the house, I think I was probably fried. I thought I was talking pretty good. I guess I wasn't talking pretty good. But, going back to that shame, like, the last thing, we're all parents, right? I think everybody here is parents. Negative. Oh,
nope.
Sorry.
No children.
No
children.
You can watch our children.
Something interesting, Manny, as you were talking about how your family was scared to leave you home with your wife was scared to leave you home with your children. I was watching everyone who's sitting around here, and everyone went into a stare. Everyone was watching that in their own head as their spouse or friend or whatever was scared to leave someone with them. And I saw everyone here go into that. I mean, Veronica had a stare, Mark had a stare, you were living it, and we're all just sitting here. It's playing in our head, our own specific scenario about how when we were in crisis, we were the monsters, Yeah,
we were scary.
Yeah.
I was scared of myself.
Well, yeah, because but again, you think to yourself, you don't want your spouse to think that you're incapable, right? We don't like that word disabled.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not, you have a disability, Veronica. I'm fine. I'm good. But we do relive that. And you think to yourself, how am I going to get these? You think there's a lack of trust there. There's not. I mean, my brother and my sister-in-law it's not that they don't trust me. But you start to second guess yourself, and you think to yourself, did I make the right decision by trying to be normal and just help this 6-year-old girl enjoy a fucking play date, right? And
the answer is yes.
Right. Well, when I got home, I don't know if that was right out of my mouth. I'm like, that's never going to happen again. We're done with these. Because, when my wife first told me that, like, I was appalled that she could say to me that I don't know that I can leave you alone with our son. Not that I would harm him, but you want to talk about gut wrenching. Have your spouse look at you as though you're incompetent to be a father. That's the reality of this, and even, 7 years out for me, my wife looks at me and she says, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it was going to fucking happen. And I was like, you knew it was going to fucking happen. You let me fucking do it. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, why'd you let me go through with this shit? You wanted to see me fail, but it's not, they're hurdles. And like Dave talks about, those hurdles have to be overcome. And you have to be able to figure out how to get over them, and you're okay. Thankfully, we were already there where her mom and dad were and my mom was. But trying to get all that stuff. So the everyday struggles of that is why we're doing this podcast. And I know we talked to Mark. Veronica, what's your day like? And you said you have to you try at 7:45? That's a late morning.
I know,
Okay.
It's terrible. So we roll out of bed, hurry up and get ready for school. Usually I go to the gym after that, and then I get home and I do whatever housework needs to be done. Or I'm self-employed, so I motivate myself to work. But it depends on the day or how the night went or how I slept. Some days I take them to school and I'm just like, today's just not the day. Whatever's on my list today is going to have to wait till tomorrow. And I used to be really bad about like, no, you have to do these things. But all it did was make my downtime even longer, So,
Do you find that if you don't do it, you just go deeper and deeper into nothingness?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I put a lot of guilt on myself for not being able to do all the things that I used to be able to do, or manage all the things that I managed. Yeah, I was like super mom and capable, and a lot of times I'm like, now there's struggles, and so, but some days I am still super mom and I get a shit ton of things done, and I've got projects that I'm completing, and work is amazing, and I can go to soccer and I can go to football and I mingle just fine with people, and some days I just don't want to be around anybody, Some days I just need to turn it off.
And you and I had talked about, because you had recently applied for a job, right? Mm-hmm. And I would check in, and I did you hear anything back? And what was your answer to the last time when you didn't hear anything back? I think you said, I almost hope I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah,
because I don't know that so I got cued again. I was feeling good, and I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, I can go back to work. I was putting in for positions that were similar to what I had before.
Of all things, peer support, right?
It was peer support, and then
dealing with victims.
And right, that was one of them, and then back in an investigations position. And so I was like, no, I've got this. Like, I feel I've been doing good for weeks. Like, life is good.
There's that fucking cockiness.
Yeah, and so I was like, the worst thing that can happen is I can get a job and then be like, oh yeah, this isn't going to work, and then quit, right? Like, it's not going to hurt anybody.
But that's not true, because we're not quitters.
I know. Well, so then, time went by, and I was like, there's, that upward started getting leveling out, and then started back and forth, So I was at a point where I was just like, I just don't know that every day, full time, like that I can do that, be in that environment, doing those things. I don't know that it's smart, because I left it because it was unhealthy for me. And to put myself back in there because I feel good is just not a smart idea if I want to continue.
But you'd already committed to the application and everything else.
I did interviews and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but what about
I've done
outside
that so many
of
times. Like, I've committed to something, and I'm like, what did I just do?
That's why you don't commit to anything more than 3 days out, because you can always back out later.
That's great.
But what about if it wasn't in the same field? What if it was in a different field? Do you think it'd be different if you were in a sales field or something else?
I don't know, because like I said, I don't know that I am capable of just getting up every morning to go do it. Not that I, don't have the brain for it, like education.
I don't have the brain for it. My brain's fried.
Right. You know, like, not that I'm not smart enough or I wouldn't be capable in the position. I just don't think that I'm capable of doing it the way that I was, in the manner that I wanted to be, because I would want to go and excel and do good and whatever. And I just don't know that I can get up and guarantee that on an everyday basis anymore.
And a commitment's scary as
Right.
heck, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
It's like, man. Yeah.
Because
it's easy to commit to until you think about it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, what did I
What
just
did
talk about?
every day.
Yeah, Manny's
What's
our
that?
hero.
How do you do it?
Well,
every
that's
day?
why he's the vice
Because you
president.
do it every day.
Well, you can't put me on tape for that because they can use that against me. But
Nobody watches this thing.
Yeah, our 67 followers might snitch me out. But no, I'd go back to a non-enforcement role. But I find that what used to so I think everybody here has worked for a relatively big department except the township people.
It was big for us.
So it wasn't unheard of for me to be down 16 reports on my Friday. And we would, I would take 5 or 6 reports a day. And they ranged from, a shoplift here at Walmart to a stabbing. And as long as it wasn't a felony in custody, it didn't have to be done that night. So it had the secret squirrel hold. And it held till Friday. And then 16 reports later, I'd be sitting there typing all my reports. But I find that now I struggle with those reports. So I do like a sentence a day. Because, I think to myself, this
that
is
sounds like my book that I wrote for 10 years.
Yeah, it's complicated, right? Like you think to yourself, and we all know how the reports go. Unless you're a firefighter, you don't write fucking reports. You just look good, and then you go back on the rig.
Yeah.
But we have to write reports. And those reports, they start exactly the same. On this day, at this time, I responded to this location, and I spoke with this fucking person. Blah. And then you start typing, And let me tell you, when I start typing that, man, I think to myself, I really don't give a fuck who I talk to. You look at things so much different. Like, I don't want to know people's problems. Right? I just don't have the energy to worry about someone else's problems anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's not just back at work, it's just like my family. My family can call me and ask me, hey, I got a question. And I'm thinking to myself, please, why the fuck are you calling me? Of all the people in this big fucking Hispanic family, you call me. And it's something simple, and I just think I don't want to have to think for you. Where'd you park the short bus? Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how you do it with your son. My goddaughter asked me questions. I'm like, geez, how about we just eat calamari? Can we just sit here quietly? I can't imagine like a 10-year-old asking questions or wanting me to. Can we go here? Can we do that? But I will tell you that one of the things that helps me quite a bit is I love to hear my nephews and my sons laugh, right? Like that's the best thing that helps me because I see them truly at 14. I remember being 14 before I was fucked up and, Susie's got some boobies on her, and they giggle in the back corner, and then they talk and then they get excited and get loud. Ask her if she's got big boobies, and I'm like, this is great. How do I get back to that innocence? How do I get back to feeling like just being normal? But I can't. Everything seems to be a fucking struggle. Everything is so grandiose to me. It doesn't matter. My wife is like, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, Jesus, really? Today she's like, well, do you want me to cook something? I'm like, I don't want, no. Because what if it's wrong? I don't know if they ate beforehand. What if we have more food? And then I'm fucking trying to put shit away. Like all these things are complicated, and those things I struggle with on a daily basis. Now, before we get done, I want to ask Mark about this. How the fuck do you date single? Do you put that on your profile on Tinder?
Here's
Swipe
the problem,
left
man.
if you have PTSD. Do they just swipe left immediately?
Here's the problem. What's the first thing everybody wants to know?
Fix you. They want to
everybody's
fix
looking
you.
for a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I see one. And so they ask you, hey, what do you do? And
they don't. You mean they don't say you're retired? You got full-time check?
Well, they're like, yeah, no, they're like, man, you're retired and you're not even 55 yet. How'd you work that? And I was like, I retired early from the police department. Why?
Read the book.
Yeah, and then I just changed it to retired and author. And what'd you write your book about? Well, I wrote a book about a shooting I was in when I was a police officer. And then it doesn't take long, and the next thing you know, it comes up. And it's like, because that's, especially for, when you're in that realm, everybody wants to know what you do and what you are. And, so I'm retired and I wrote a book about PTSD. And they, I can't tell you the number of times that's like the last message that ever gets sent. But I'll
that's
tell
weird
you,
on blocked.
It's hundreds.
I just got blocked.
What did
I say?
And next thing you know, their profile goes blank. It's like,
You're just
honestly,
blocked.
it's like you got leprosy. It's like you got leprosy.
No, so they're not wanting to help you. They don't think they can fix you.
So speaking of help me, one of these people, big long dialogue, was texting for back and forth for a long time, and we decided we're gonna meet. Probably had some good chemistry we thought going on, and she said, "Yeah, what did you retire so early for?" And I was like,
Here it comes.
"Yeah," and I said, "Well, I got in a shooting when I was in a police department, and I said, oh, so they made you retire?" I said, yeah. Why? Did you get injured? Well, I always say it like this, like I'm disowning it. Well, their doctor said I got PTSD.
I wanted to stay and be a hero.
I know. and honestly, I did. I mean, I was trying to get doctors to give me a clearance. But anyway, so they're like, their doctor said I got PTSD, so I was forced into retirement. And so this girl texted me back and said, oh, well, I'm a psychologist, and I'm not going to meet you now because I don't want to bring that into my personal life. And
so you don't even get a shot. You're just X'd right off the fucking map immediately.
So check it out. It was valuable insight because it was like, that's a doctor and she said she specifically worked with PTSD people.
Wow.
And so I'm like, man. But it like totally rung my bell. It was like, boom! It was like, if a doctor who treats this and knows the ins and outs of it, the highs and lows, and the fact that it's in levels, you know what I mean? There's like the crisis mode, like Brian had referred to, and then there's the coping mode where you're learning to manage it and stuff like that out.
Did you tell her how far out you were?
Yeah.
And she still didn't want to touch you, huh?
Man, it was like I had leprosy. I ain't kidding you.
That's fucking.
Maybe you should just start out with that. Just start out with it so that you can.
I've tried every angle there is, but I'm just telling you, it's such a stigma.
Hey, my name's Mark, and I'm fucked up. Is that what you're gonna put on the table?
All the single ladies. All the single ladies. All the single ladies.
He can't find out that he has chemistry with somebody and then get to the point where he thinks something may or may not happen.
No, I do start out with it because it's on my thing. It's like, hey, author, and they ask, what's your book about? Blah, 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 and it just comes out. But what resonated with me and what really shook me on that one so much was the fact that here's a doctor who is like a psychologist, and she treats people with PTSD and knows. I mean, she knew the backstory on my thing. She actually went online and watched some of my radio interviews and stuff like that.
Oh, she definitely was done with you. She's like, I'm fucking done with that guy.
And it was just like it was too much. And,
so,
and then there's a lot of people, that roll that out, and as soon as they do, everybody know this? Whoop, swipe left. Swipe left. So I got left swiped on quite a few people. I mean, there was one girl that I was just completely in love with, and she ran into this, and she's like, you know what? I don't like all your activation. I don't like your swearing. I don't like all these things, and I think it's too much for me. And so when you let that, so remember I was telling you, Brian, I said you become a master of disguising this.
What were you gonna say?
/ coping.
You were gonna say
No,
something.
I was gonna say, because he's talking about this doctor, but just like us, we hate to be asked by our family or friends, hey, so I got this ticket. You think the doctor really wants to work at home too?
No, it's not.
So that's what I'm saying. So maybe she's going, oh no, this is work at home.
Yeah.
Swipe
Swipe
move
left.
along. You know, and I don't think it was
maybe it
anything
is,
against
but
you, but I think she just didn't want to
that
bring
may
work
be,
home.
but you know, if that's a doctor who actually knows and treats people in this realm, imagine the average citizen who's got nothing but these social stigmas, got nothing but the cliches to go from and draw from, and everybody's thinking, this moron's going to come home with me. We're going to go to McDonald's one day. He's going to go into McDonald's and shoot and kill everybody. They're going to tear down the McDonald's and turn it into a national memorial.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
think that's how we think.
That's way in your head
That's,
there.
yeah,
bud.
that's how
You
we're
gave that
thinking.
a lot of thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
so.
I'm just telling you, go talk to the average. Let's do a man on the street podcast.
Just walk around with a microphone.
Hey, what do you think of PTSD? What does PTSD mean to you? When
Oh,
somebody
they
said they have
definitely
PTSD.
shoot up the
What do you
building.
think they're going to do?
Shoot up the building.
Of course.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Wouldn't date any of you fuckers.
That,
I'm not even gonna
Hey, that's
say
not
what
even
we
go
don't
there.
even have a
Let's not even go
we don't
there.
even have a mic on
Such
T.
a liar.
But so
You date me in a heartbeat, and you know.
so
it.
what? So
For a heartbeat
You-
too, but only.
you come into a bar. You just look like trouble. It doesn't matter if you got it or not.
No.
You're the only guy who knows where motorcycle boots and drives a Kia. That's a fucking that's a misnomer right
It
there.
is the Sorrento, which is an Italian word, just like Lamborghini.
Nowhere near Lambo.
It is. It's a Lamborghini.
So
It's an affordable Lamborghini.
what about Veronica? What
Better
about
gas mileage.
what about just in general the ups and downs? How much more highs than lows do you have, or vice versa?
Oh, I'm probably 70-30, you know, like I'm
70-30 what? More highs?
Yeah, good times than bad. Yeah. I mean,
for
even
you.
like now when I do have bad times, like I was saying earlier, it's not bad days anymore. Not usually. I guess that does happen on occasion, but usually even if I have something triggers me throughout the day or something, I know I do, like you were saying, like you start working on whatever, you start using those tools that you've learned to kind of manage it and kind of keep it calm before it gets to that blow up point. So I know that even if something's not going great that day, that tomorrow's a new day and I'm going to be able to start over, get a new chance, and it most likely will be better. You know, it's not like before where I was just like, holy crap, like everything's over. This is just the rest of my life is going to suck because I feel this shitty and I don't know what's wrong and I can't fix it and this is just it. Like
And
now I know.
most of these are going to stop in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If you can survive the 2.5 that it
If
takes
I can
to
get
get
through
to the third
there
minute.
and I get everything rolling, I say I'm gonna a piece of gum. I need a cold glass of water. I need to do this. I need to amp up some media, whether it's the TV. I mean, everybody thinks I got a hearing problem. No, I'm trying to drown out what's going on in
What's
here.
happening? Yep.
And it's like I get the media going. I turn on my radio. I'll do what Brian said. I'll go to the gym. I've just dropped in my house and just started racking out push-ups. And just like, man, I got to get through this. I got to
Like
get
burpee
through this.
prison
I gotta get through
style?
this. I just got to get through this. No, not prison style.
No. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out, and hopefully we'll get some comments. Motherfuckers don't leave comments. I get text messages every time. I'm like, leave a comment,
Stop putting your phone number on there.
and then I get a text. Why?
Because anonymity.
Because cops don't like to put a name on feelings.
But you could put a fake name.
Yeah, but
They
most
got
guys
fake
aren't gonna
fucking
do that.
dating profiles. Like this motherfucker's not Mark Freemark on his dating profile.
I know
Thanks
that,
for
but,
putting that out over the air.
but we all don't want the stigma of admitting that there's something wrong or that you have a weakness. And so I think to our audience, it's hard for them to say, hey, I've got a problem. Because, first of all, they're admitting it.
And they don't even, a lot of them don't even want to be associated with it. So even just
Right.
asking a question that doesn't necessarily show they might have the problem, just putting them in that same association with us is really hard for them.
Well, even though I got
Yeah.
swiped
Right.
left on by the doctor, she did close it with this. She said, "You know what?" She said, "I've treated hundreds of people for PTSD, combat vets, and everything." She said, "I got to tell you," she said, "you're the most adjusted, functioning person I've ever seen that has PTSD." So maybe that's 14 years behind,
That's pistol.
but exactly, man.
That's
Pistol. Get into your local pistol chapter and get help from these folks, because with all the doctors I've seen, all the medications I've had, all my own self-made checklists, these guys, they're the number one medicine for me.
All right. So we'll wrap it up. and we'll find out what next week's podcast is. We'll have a special guest. We can't talk about the fundraiser because when it airs, it'll be over. So.
Hey, thanks for coming out to the fundraiser.
Yeah, appreciate everybody that came out to the fundraiser ahead of time.
Way to go, California Pizza Kitchen.